Hello, everybody. Andy Jacob here with the DotCom magazine Entrepreneur Spotlight Series. Settle back in your chairs today. I have a wonderful guest on the show. You know, before we even get started, I was speaking to Miss Jessica Dennehy. She's our guest today. She, of course, is an author, a best-selling author. She wins all kinds of awards that we're going to get into. She's a business owner of multiple businesses. And of course, she is the CEO and founder of Pivot and Slay Consulting. And I love the name so much. But we were talking before, we're going to try and make a change. We're going to try and make a change in everybody that's watching the show today so that when we get done with this 30 minutes, you're going to start thinking about life in a much different way, because Jessica is so dynamic and she has such an empowering way in which she teaches about life and not to be dull. I mean, infuse your life with enthusiasm and passion. She's an expert at it, and she has so many people that love reading her books and follow her and engage with her and consult with her. We're actually honored and delighted to have Jessica on the show today. Jessica, welcome to the DotCom magazine Entrepreneur Spotlight Series.
I am thrilled to be here. Thank you for having me.
I love it. It's great to have you. We have so many questions, and we're going to try and make such an impact for people watching the show instantaneously. But before we get started, let's pull the lens back to 30,000 feet as we always do. Tell us about Pivot and Slay, probably the best name of any consulting company I've ever heard, and then we're going to get into it.
Well, I'm an entrepreneur by nature. It just came out of me at a weird time in my life when I was 1 week away from having a baby, my very first baby. And so I really wanted to empower people, especially women, to take big chances, even when the timing is not right. And when I really thought back on my life, I thought, man, I've adapted a lot in my life. And to me, that's pivot, right? But you can't just keep adapting. You have to learn to take that adaptation and really roll with it and make it significant and impactful. And that's the slay part. So when I conceptualized my consulting company, that is what I named it, because I thought right away, you understand what I'm about.
I love it. Yeah. And people reach out to you, Jessica. Let's talk about the first conversation. You have somebody that reaches out. They've read your book. They've seen you on the speaking circuit. They've read about you in Entrepreneur Magazine or wherever you won an award. What's that first conversation sound like, Jessica, with you about what they want to do in their life and how you can help them out?
I think they really need to understand what the purpose of their business and the direction of their life, what that looks like. Without that, I can't help anybody, right? And sometimes people have a hard time finding that purpose. And so my purpose in their life is to help bring that out of them, because we all get kind of lost. Like for me, I got lost in the titles, right? I was a lawyer, I was a mom, I was a spouse, I was a business owner, and I forgot about being Jessica. Like I am first and foremost Jessica. And without me developing who I am and making sure I keep in touch with that person, I will fail at every other role. And it took me far too long to realize that. And that is why I conceptualized my second book, Selfish is a Superpower, to help people stay connected with themselves and redefine selfish as something positive, something that helps you be a better person, a better parent, a better spouse.
Yeah, I love that. Redefining selfish as a positive. And a lot of people don't do that because, like you said, they're not thinking about themselves, and they don't know how to take their own power back. So let's talk about that. Why is it important for people to take that power back in their own lives?
Well, before I say another word, I want the audience to really understand that my girls, my daughters and I are so close. Like we're super close. We even have our own theme song. We're the three best friends anyone ever had. You've ever seen The Hangover, right? They sing that song. That's our theme song because it's just the three of us. I'm a solo parent. And the reason that I found selfish as a superpower is because I failed. And I didn't want other people to have to go through that same moment in order to figure this out. So when I write the book, I write about how I became a better parent once I started putting my needs before my kids. And that's so taboo. It's such a horrible thing to hear because people get like cringed right away. Like, oh my God, we're not supposed to do that, right? Like your kids come first no matter what. This is a harmonious thing, right? You can't always have the kids be first, because then what are you teaching them? You're going to be moping through your life, kind of sad, kind of happy here and there. And you're inadvertently teaching them that mediocre happiness is okay. And I know that's not the intention of most parents. And I want to help them have the courage to be like, no, today's about me. This moment's going to be about me. I have to fortify my happiness and stick to being an individual in order to be the best parent I can be. And I say that with love because I know my kids mean so much to me. And I can say with certainty that living my life this way has not only elevated me, my businesses, and my finances, it also helped my kids elevate their own lives, their own little lives in elementary school, if you can believe it.
Wow, congratulations. And you talk about something that's super cool about creating a life that would light you up so that then you could shine the light on everyone that you love. So when people reach out to you, is that part of the process to get them to understand, to sort of shine the light on themselves so that then they can shine the light on others?
That is one of the hardest jobs I have. Yes, because, and this is especially when I'm working with men, they come to me and they are just like, this is what I want to do with my business. And this is the facts and this is the numbers. And I'm like, great. What'd you do for fun today? And they were like, business is fun. I love work. I'm like, yeah, I know. But if you are only working all the time, your business and your brand will have no personality. You need to hone in on that fun component. And one of the reasons that people love following me so much is because I'm fun. I put myself out there. I get silly. I don't take myself so seriously all the time. And I'm not working 365, 24/7. Like I make time to enjoy my life and my success and my kids while still maintaining my dynamic ambition. And I think that's something people need to learn how to do. And they oftentimes don't even know they're not doing it. That's the saddest part. Like they think they're doing it right until you ask them, like, what'd you do for fun? When's the last time you laughed? When are you having fun in your life? Like, what'd you do with your kids this weekend? And they're like, oh my God, I worked all weekend. So that's one of the hardest conversations I have with people. And the second I get them to realize that, that's a real eye-opening moment for them to shine, because then they start realizing how much more their brands can light up other people if they just let it be a little fun too.
I love it. And of course, you had a dream job as a Wall Street attorney, and that was like your dream job, but then you left it really to prioritize things in your life. How important with your clients is to get them prioritized right? And what does that process look like?
Well, I think a lot of times, and I'm including myself in this, we spend so much time and energy and money getting to where we thought we wanted to be. When we're there and it doesn't fulfill us anymore, we're kind of like feel this guilt to stay. And I think a lot of people get stuck there. And so when I had the courage to leave, I think that really helps me. Telling my story helps other people see the light in their own life, because we're scared. But I'm taking that fear and I'm like, but look what I did with it, right? Now I have a life that actually makes me happy. I felt stuck there. I couldn't be me. I couldn't have pink hair. I couldn't go have fun with my kids because I was stuck at my desk all the time. And then it sucked for a little bit because there's that transition, but look at it now. And so I have these conversations with them, and a lot of them, they own their own businesses. So they're not going to leave their business, but what they are going to do is create more happiness inside that business, either meaning they prioritize how they work differently, or they start to create like a more of a team environment where they get to know people as people and not just staff members. And either one of those things can really change the dynamic of the company, especially the first thing. And what I tell most people is I prioritize my day by energy. So if I'm interviewing all day, I'm going to stay in that zone all day long, which makes me be efficient and on top of my game. If I'm writing all day. If I'm coaching all day. If I'm momming all day. Like I'm not going to be bouncing around. And as entrepreneurs, it's important to hear that multitasking that everyone brags about, that's ruining your day. That's making your day less efficient because you're not focused. So I think creating that focus on yourself and your happiness will also help you prioritize your focus at work. Because if you can get everything done in 5 hours and go be with your family, who wouldn't want that?
Yeah. It's great. It's awesome. I mean, I love it so much. And you talk about multitasking. Sometimes it's not all what it was, cracked up to be, many, many years ago. Let's talk about it, because we have some entrepreneurs now that are watching the show. They're seeing you. I mean, you're a best-selling author. You own multiple businesses. You speak on stages across the world to entrepreneurs. You raise your children. I mean, you do it all. So let's give some practical advice, if we can, to the entrepreneurs watching the show. What are some things that entrepreneurs watching the show can do, maybe even starting tomorrow morning, to get their life maybe back in check in a way that's fun and meaningful, where they can get it all done, but maybe in a different way than what they're used to?
All right, I have a few things here. So the first and foremost thing is you're not living your life with intention, or at least not enough intention. And I did this too when I was starting out. I kind of was just surviving. And that's not where you want to be as an entrepreneur. In order to really elevate your success, you have to thrive. And that takes focus. So when I am in the morning routines are big buzzword these days, right? But just doing it isn't enough, right? Like being on your treadmill or in weightlifting while you're checking Instagram, that's not intentional, right? That's not giving yourself the time you need to clear your mind and focus on your health and, really make an impact in the gym. And so many of us are living our lives that way. It doesn't have to be at the gym, but anything you're doing, you're never just focused on that. So I say focus. When you say I'm sitting down to do this task, just do that. When you're sitting down to create content, just do that. When you're sitting with a client, focus on them. You're sitting with your child, focus on them. You get the point, right? Like be intentional with the way that you are acting throughout the day, no matter if it's personal or business. The second thing is dream. How about that? Like there's two types of people, right? I was the kind that was so neurotic. I wanted to control everything. And so I never made time to dream. I was just so focused on the linear, how am I going to get from point A to point B? Let me make a plan. Let me make a list. Let me start doing stuff, right? I didn't sit down to dream about it. Like when my new book, Selfish is a Superpower, hits New York Times bestseller list, which is my goal. Why is that important? What does that feel like? What do I look like when that happens? What is my smile like? Like, what's the outside? Was it raining? Is it sunshiny? Like, what does that feel like? Why does that light me up? What does that mean to me? That's an important part of success, because otherwise, if you're just focused on the linear, how to get there, okay, I got to sell this many books. I got to post about it every day. The goal comes and you achieve it and you feel nothing. You need to connect your emotions to your goals. And that's something I never did. And now that I do that, man, they are so much more fulfilling. My life is fulfilling because I know why I want to accomplish that. And it's not just to check a box or cross something off my list. The meaning is deeper and bigger. And that's what makes it fill me up with happiness.
God, I love it. And you mentioned the book. I mean, I love the title, Selfish is My Superpower. So people are going to look at that title and they're going to say to themselves, wow, this is a little outside the box. I mean, who is this person saying that selfish is my superpower? That's a little different than what we typically hear. So have you had people reach out to you and say, hey, Jessica, what's this, selfish is my superpower? Why did you come up with that name? It seems a little counterintuitive. I mean, it doesn't sound like what the norm is. I kind of look at you, someone that breaks the box and, steps outside of the box, then breaks the box and destroys the boxes. That's what you were trying to do with the title.
Yes, I want to make a splash. I want to make people stop and think about that. And even just this morning, someone yelled at me on Instagram about my post about being selfish because people like to be divisive and that's cool, but like nothing is black or white. It's not polarized, right? Like we have to meet in the middle. You can't always be living for other people. You have to be able to live for yourself and make sure that you're putting your happiness in the forefront of your life too. And that doesn't mean that I put my kids third and fourth and fifth every single day. Like that's what people want to believe it means because it makes them feel better. But what this means is, guess what? I'm not taking a back seat to my own life, where I'm not martyring myself and being like, whatever my kids want at any moment, I'm giving them because that's how they're going to be happy. No, I want to teach them by example that me going out and getting what I want in this life means so can you. And if you watch me do it, you will do it too. Because our kids, they don't listen to what we say. They listen to our actions. They look at the actions and they mimic them. So I want to show them a happy, dynamic life because then that is what they will go and grab. So yeah, I want to turn heads with this title. I want people to start thinking about how they can make themselves happier and know that that's not actually selfish. You're actually doing this for the betterment of the people around you because they get a better version of you.
Yeah, I love it. And of course, you became more famous by an article that you wrote, I'm going to read it right now, why having a win or lose mindset will kill your entrepreneurial dreams. And I love that. So is that what you experience with your clients? You know, they have this win or lose mindset, and because of that, it's sort of inhibiting them from going to where they want to go.
Absolutely. I mean, and I always speak about it from my perspective because I don't teach people things that I don't know firsthand, right? Like I want you to know I've been there. And I used to have this mindset where like there was either two options. I was either going to win or I was going to lose, right? Whoa, no, that misses the whole point because the losses, you learn so much more from them than you learn from the wins. Like the wins are great. They help you gain confidence and momentum. But really, if you ask any entrepreneur a moment in life where they learn the most, it was never by winning. Winning is the outcome of several failed attempts. You know, you hardly ever win on the first go. So I think if you stop thinking about it as win or lose and you think about it as win or learn, that's when your mind can expand because you're not afraid to lose anymore. Like who's afraid to learn? No one's afraid to learn something, right? But losing, that sounds scary. So think about the loss as a learning experience. And I think that'll help you take more risks in life. And that's how you'll push your career forward.
Yeah, that's powerful. And for the entrepreneurs watching the show, rewind what Jessica just said. I mean, that's powerful. That's basically an MBA right there from Harvard in, 2 minutes or less. Now, you didn't do this on your own. No, you didn't build all this on your own. I want to talk about mentorship, about learning, because a lot of entrepreneurs, when they hit a dead end, maybe they stop learning. How important on your journey has been surrounding yourself with people that you can learn from and then take what you've learned from them and share that in a teacher-student relationship with some of your clients?
I think that's an important point for people to know is like there's two Jessicas, right? There's the Jessica that teaches what I've learned and what I know to people on their come up, which is an important part of who I am and how I give back. But there's also the personal development side of me that I have to go into rooms often where I am not the smartest person. I am not the most successful person. And that scares the hell out of me even right now. That never stops scaring me because every room I get into keeps getting bigger and scarier. And that's on purpose, intentional. I'm intentionally putting myself in these scenarios where I can learn from people who have done far more than me. And then when I learn from them, I can eventually go give back to people who need to know that stuff too. So I think it's imperative. You can't be the biggest fish in your pond and still grow. In order to grow, you got to get out of that comfort zone where you're the smartest and most accomplished person. It's just getting in those rooms can be intimidating at first. The thing you need to know is you don't know everything. And the sooner you admit that to yourself and you don't feel embarrassed by it, the more quickly you can actually take in really valuable information from people who have had more success than you and implement it into your life. And it's a beautiful thing.
Yeah, it's a beautiful thing. And when I think of you and I look at your career, I think of that word that you just used, intention, intentionality. It's very interesting. Let's talk about that. Let's unpack that a little bit. When you say doing something with intention or intentionality for the entrepreneurs watching the show, Explain what you mean by that, and then explain to the entrepreneurs watching the show how they can become more intentional.
I have a great example that just happened this week. So I feel like learning by example sometimes is the easiest way to show people what I mean. So to me, a lot of times entrepreneurs get stuck in these rooms with these people, like they finally get themselves in the room, right? In the scary room. And then they don't know what to do with themselves once they get there. You need a game plan for everything. Now, here's what I've learned. Yes, you have a plan. Yes, you have structure. Yes, you have intention, but flow in the moment too, because sometimes the things you think are going to happen are not. And this just happened to me this week. When I went to this beautiful, amazing celebrity gala, I thought I was going to meet someone specific there. And I went with the intention of finding this person and speaking to them. I also went with the intention of working the room as much as I could, meeting as much people and making a genuine connection. Well, the person I thought was going to be there wasn't there. I could have been crushed, but I had to flow. I chose to still work the room and act as though my purpose there was the same, right? So I still continue to flow with the moment and meet other people who I didn't know would be there. And I had intentional conversations with each of them, listening. My intention for this event was to listen more than to speak, because I knew that room was filled with people I could learn from. And so a lot of people would have just gone there and been like, whatever happens, happens. And whoever's there's there. And I'll just bop around, right? And I'll eat shrimp with this one and I'll have a drink with this one. And then the night goes by and you didn't actually do anything, right? And if you're there for work, if you're there for a purpose, if you're there to elevate, then you better know why, what intention you should set and how you can achieve that in the moment. And I think that's the biggest lesson I've learned is you can't just be in the room. You need to be in the room for a purpose and understand what that purpose is and try to help yourself achieve that. And, but also make sure you roll with the punches. So my celebrity that I wanted to meet didn't end up coming to that event. And that's okay, because I wasn't meant to be there with him yet. One day I will be.
Yeah, there's no doubt about it, because you're intentional. And of course, you're a big believer in entrepreneurial meetups. You actually have meetups yourself, and you inspire people to make connections and get support and be inspired by coming to the meetups. For the entrepreneurs watching the show again, maybe they're a little kind of freaked out about a meetup. Maybe they don't go because they don't know how to handle themselves, or they don't know how to get that right intention. Are there a few pieces of information or pointers you can give about what one should do to get ready for what we call a meetup?
Yeah. I mean, I think at first we're all kind of lost and we don't have that intention set, and that's okay. Like, it's a learning curve. There's a lot of times you won't actually know, what it would be like, right? Like, what's this event going to be like? Who's going to be there? Maybe you don't know. So I think go in with an open mind and just try to connect with at least one person, someone that looks inviting, like maybe someone that you randomly bump into and you have a vibe with, and just kind of talk to that one person. Cause I think you can get lost. Now that I'm good at it, years later, I can go into a sea of people like I did on Monday and work the room. I couldn't do that 2 years ago when I was starting out, 3 years ago, right? So I just went in the room and got to know one person, and that's okay. And then you take those baby steps, and that's exactly why I created this entrepreneur meetup. It's free because I wanted to open it up to people who are maybe not quite like ready to be in a super duper mastermind, or can't afford to pay for one, but can still grab value. And I have my friends coming in that have accomplished a lot and usually get paid to be on stage. They come in and do this for free because we want to give back to the community. So no one should be afraid to attend one of mine, because it's very casual and it's on purpose that way, so that you feel like you can really get in there at any level and find some value. And even if that's just making another entrepreneur friend, that can take you a long way.
That's great. I mean, maybe you crawl a little bit before you walk, and walk before you run. And then you can do the type of meetups that Jessica did last Monday with the sea of people. Now, I want to touch on your speaking engagements. A lot of companies reach out to you. They want you to come speak. When you look at companies, is there something that's missing, like universally, that all these companies are trying to get fixed at the same time because all these companies are having difficulties in one particular area? Or do your speaking engagements get selected because the company wants you to speak on something different than maybe what you've spoken on before?
Well, I think what I speak about, what my heart says, is something that is new to corporate America. And I think that's what the attraction is to hire me for speaking engagements, because they have people coming in that teach very linear, mechanical things. And that's just what corporate America has done for years and years. What I'm teaching is a little bit more emotional and opening up your heart to, and yourself, and getting connected to you, and in order to get more connected to your superiors and the people that work with you and your family. And so that's like a little more heartfelt than what corporate America is used to. So I think that's the reason people reach out to me, because I have a way of bridging the gap between that linear thought pattern that I used as a lawyer and now the way that I lead my own companies, which is more from the heart. I feel like I kind of combine that masculine and feminine energy, and I can speak to people on both ends of the spectrum about how to come closer to incorporating both aspects of themselves into their daily life.
I love it. I only have a couple more questions. I know you've only cut out a certain amount of time, of course. Pivot and Slay. What a name. I love it so much. I want to talk about your daughters, because you do have a couple of photos on the website. So I feel like it's okay to ask a question regarding them. When we think about your daughters and we think about the fact, that their mom is doing so much good in the world now and helping so many people and companies, are there certain tenets or certain principles now that you want your children to grow up with? Are there a couple of things maybe now this new Jessica wants her children to learn maybe in a different way than maybe an older Jessica from a few years ago?
For sure. The number one thing that I teach my kids is to express themselves, even to me. And I don't mean that in a some kind of way like they get whatever they want or they get to rule the roost. This is like an open line of communication where they get to say how they feel and what they want. And they don't necessarily get what they want, but they get to express what they want and who they are to me and to the world. I really focus my attention on that, like making sure that when they're upset, they go back to their rooms and think about why. Like, why did you react that way? What's the deep down reason that you're having these feelings? Not just like, I'm having these feelings, right? Because then we don't get to solve the problem. So it's a big thing in my house is awareness of why and why we're acting a certain way and how we can change it, how we can honor the individualities between the three of us, but still like live in harmony together. So that's really big in my house. And that transfers on to the way that they act at school, because they're now able to communicate with people in the moment. Like, this hurt my feelings, or I need blah, 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 or I'm feeling XYZ. And they do it in a way that isn't overly emotional, because they're so used to being able to communicate these things that they don't have to feel the feels for too long. They recognize the feelings and then they let them go. And I think what me raising them this way has really helped them own who they are and have a confidence about them, because when they say or do something, they can take ownership of it. And either apologize for their actions or say like, no, I stand by my actions. And I think that's really strong for an 11 and 8-year-old.
Wow. Beautiful. Before I let you go, we want to talk to the younger entrepreneurs watching the show. Maybe they're having a tough time in their business. Maybe they're freezing in the frame a little bit. Maybe they're trying to get through a wall and they can't seem to break through. What type of advice do you have for the younger entrepreneurs watching the show about getting through or over or around that wall and how to keep on pushing?
So it comes back to the awareness piece. I think at that stage, when you're stuck, you're either stuck because you have gone so far in your actions. Now you need to dream a little bit, or you got stuck in dreaming and you didn't take any action. So when you're stuck, I would suggest that you pause and you think to yourself, which of those two scenarios am I faced with? And then you will know the answer is either to take some action or to stop acting and get creative with what the next stage of your business will be. And every single time I've implemented that strategy, I have been able to overcome whatever hurdle I was facing. So I really think that's something people should try to do.
I love it. a little pause, hit the pause button,
Yeah.
take a breath, right? Figure it out. Be intentional about the next move. Great advice. Jessica, it's been amazing to have you on the .com Magazine Entrepreneur Spotlight Series. We're, of course, going to put some links up and some photos to your best-selling book and all the other things that you're doing. Pivot and Slay Consulting for people that really want to have a dynamic life that's really going to start and end with you right now. This is it. So I want to thank you so much for coming on the show. This has been amazing.
Thank you so much. Have a wonderful day.